Unreasonable Hospitality is a book about the remarkable power of giving people more than they expect.
We're going to be talking today about how we apply this to the care home sector. So, yeah, to summarize this phrase, he feels good service is more table stakes. It's black and white, it's competence. But hospitality is the color. It's this connection, this golden connection that we're going to keep talking about. How do we establish that right throughout the end-to-end journey so that we will stand out and differentiate ourselves to competitors? So the initial theme we're going to look at is around belonging. Belonging usually happens in the very first few minutes. It's the way you greet someone, how you listen to them, and whether you make them feel that you actually see them and not just their situation. So we can achieve this in the care home sector through asking great questions, great open human discovery questions, such as, what does a good day look like for your mum? Or, would love to hear a bit about your mum's likes and dislikes. This is really opening people up and softening everything, coming away from the more clinical and transactional dry questions that we're often firing at people, which really makes it more difficult to connect with people. So how do we create this sense of belonging right at the beginning here through listening and asking really open curiosity questions that can really shine a light on our empathy? And the quote there at the bottom is just the whole title of this book and throughout is about unreasonable hospitality. So, Will, the author there, just says, no one ever changed the game by just being reasonable. We're definitely not, we're not aiming for reasonable here. Reasonable isn't good enough. We're aiming for unreasonable. So what ways can you dial up to really surprise and delight people? And we said at the start that the two go hand in hand, that we need our people to feel really amazing in order for the service and the hospitality we provide to be amazing. So the way leaders show up filters throughout the whole home. If your team feels supported and appreciated, families will feel it straight away. So how could we do this? So things like praising people in front of others is, provides lots of that feel good factor. And if there are moments where we need to have private conversations to, pick up moments that weren't ideal, making sure we do that in private, making it easy for your team to be honest with you without worrying that they'll get in trouble, and just being human. So then another big theme of this book, one that I'm very passionate about as well, is how we achieve consistency in excellence. And that's through setting standards. And we might call those basics, foundations, standard operating procedures. So when the basics are steady, the whole place feels calmer. So if we have an excellent first impression arrival experience because we've mapped out before how we will achieve that consistently, it makes a huge difference. So to achieve these excellent standards, there are often toolkits and resources we can do to help provide the consistency. And I've just put some on the screen here that are examples that many of you will have in your care homes. So customer inquiry forms, do you have that? Do you have those? Are they consistently executed? So everybody knows what are the key questions you're asking. And there are very vanilla customer inquiry forms out there that are more transactional and dry that I come across all the time. And with this, I would more ask you, how can you dial up your customer inquiry form to provide more moments of connection with the customers through these open discovery questions? Providing structure through other resources such as a tour walkthrough checklist so that before tours all the environments are looking brilliant and as great as possible, provides like good structure and preparation beforehand. So consistency is brilliant, and this is a concept around 1% gains, which is central to the philosophy of marginal gains and continuous improvement. It was popularized by an author called James Clear in his book Atomic Habits, if any of you have written that. And it's about that the success is the sum of small efforts repeated day in and day out. So, for your care homes, I would ask you, do you have these standards in place mapped out from the first phone call so people know what that looks like? What does great look like? Then the tour, then the follow-up. Is there a follow-up nurture sequence that you have, which will be executed all the time consistently and in a really great human connection way? And then, obviously, an area that the whole book is founded on is going above and beyond the basics and the standards and adding the sparkle. So, in the book, they call the sparkle a few different wordings. They might use grace notes or wow factors. And this is how do you achieve some touches that are unexpected, either to your teams or to your customers. So, if we go more on the team member route at the moment, looking at our employees, what are small habits that we could do that we could build into our culture? So, could we have a short huddle in the morning to make people feel belonging and clear and communicated well, that we can use that moment to thank someone out loud so others can hear it to provide that recognition? These little things lift the whole team, and a lifted team gives families a better experience without even trying. So I often work with care home operators to think about what are extra special touches, extra like wows or sparkles or moments of differentiation that you can do for your customer journey that would be different to the competitors. So I've put some of these on the screen, and you would want to, hero ones that feel right to your brand. So, for instance, a welcome gesture when someone's coming in for a tour. Could that be a moment where you make sure you provide lovely tea and coffee with biscuits that make people feel really welcome? Or what about a reserved parking space when they're coming for a visit? It's often highly stressful, that moment of trying to find your car park and then the car park being full. Whereas could we actually delight and surprise our visitors, our families and residents through having a reserved parking space? Um, you know, Looking more at the actual experience when people have moved in, we could have a photo taken on the first few days to show the family that they know that their loved one is well settled in and happy. Another standout moment could be a personalized handwritten card after the tour. Either a seasonal theme or something to do with a hobby that you have learnt from that person. Perhaps they're into dogs, and you could put a lovely image of a dog on the front of the card. So, in this book, Unreasonable Hospitality, Will is always encouraging us to seek inspiration from other sectors. And I'm always looking around different sectors, whether that's in the hospitality industry or other industries. Every sector can be dialing up how they try to provide unreasonable hospitality. And if I just bring to life some examples of this, the first one comes from the book itself, Unreasonable Hospitality, the hot dog story, if I can talk to you about this one first. So the waiters were ears, I think it's called eavesdropping. Sorry, I come from Hong Kong, so some of my expressions sometimes get mixed up. They were ears listening in to some European customers who had visited New York. And they were saying how disappointed they were that they had not experienced a New York hot dog, and how sad that was that when you're in New York, you should eat a hot dog because it's one of the iconic refreshments. And so listening into that, the waiters thought, oh, how could I surprise and delight my customers here? I don't want them to leave on the aeroplane feeling sad. So then they nipped out the restaurant, the waiters, and went to a hot dog stand on the road and then brought a hot dog, came back, asked their chef to plate it up with a bit more fancy touches, as you would. So this one on the screen on the top left, the left-hand side here is more of a hot dog presented in a nice way. But it's that whole story there that when they served it to those European visitors, they were absolutely blown away that they didn't know how a waiter had been able to listen to that conversation and go out of his way to make sure that they did not leave New York without experiencing a hot dog. And this just blew them away. I mean, it's all over the internet, this story all the time, which made this restaurant very famous as well. So that is a lovely gesture. Another gesture that they did in this restaurant, which is called 11 Madison Park, is they would listen out for if customers felt a bit anxious that their car might overrun and they might get obviously a car parking penalty. So in that case, the waiters would go out and they would just feed um, some coins through so that the customers could relax and have more time in their restaurant, which is obviously good for them as well to spend more money. And the customers didn't feel the worry about is their car going to get a parking fine. So that's the restaurant sector. Let's bring it into other sectors. So as we're thinking through for your care home, how could you surprise and delight your customers? What is the moment where you could do this? There is some science around a moment called the peak flow theory, which is all around the final moment is a really important moment for people that matters. So I don't know how many of you been to IKEA and being offered a free ice cream at the end when you're checking out. And this is based on this whole science theory about it's called the peak flow theory, which says that that moment of departure, the goodbye, is a very critical moment. And, if you're like me in IKEA, it's quite a stressful moment going around IKEA. You've got 1 or 2 hours arguing with your husband about, different options of furniture. Then you're lugging your own boxes around the stall, which is, stressful in itself. And then you finally get to the checkout, and you've got big queues. So IKEA said, well, we're going to take this moment and we're going to make it actually a magical moment at the end by offering people free ice cream through the, those machines that come out like that, like the Whippy 99. And that really provided a moment of great delight for customers. I think in the last few years, unfortunately, they have stopped doing that. But I give you the principle there because if you looked up IKEA and customer journey, wow moments, you would find that as an example of a great moment. So let's look at other moments. So we've talked about how the final moment in a customer journey is important. What about the arrival moment? So in the care home sector, those first few seconds of drawing up into the car park and the curb appeal, and then going through the door and having a lovely warm smile and hopefully being offered a tea and coffee is absolutely critical. And that is in our control, and we can set a standard for that, back to the other slide about, customer experience standards, to make sure it happens. The third example here with the cookie is from the DoubleTree. So obviously I work in the hotel sector all the time. There's lots of moments being offered by hotels to try and surprise and delight. And I wondered if any of you had stayed in a DoubleTree, because they offer free cookies on arrival, which is very clever as well, because the smell of cookies is really amazing and enticing. They're often used if you're trying to sell new apartments. And so they offer people a cookie on check-in, and it instantly provides people are blown away that there's this experience being offered at that moment. And then the final example I put, just as we look around different sectors for inspiration, is in the hotel world, where often you get these nice displays from towels. So this is an example of a swan. It's two swans intertwining with towels from a hotel where they were trying to provide unreasonable hospitality to a couple having an anniversary. So as we come away from now, there's surprise and delight, wow factor moments. Let's now talk about the frontline ownership. And we know that the real magic happens on the front line, and it happens more often when people feel trusted. So, how can we give our team clear boundaries and let them bring their personality into it? Well, in this book, Will encourages people to think about which areas can our teams own, to think about how they could make a real magical experience out of anything. So, for instance, with us, someone could be looking at the music and what music is put out there during the day, or the lighting, or the welcome hospitality tray that the tea and coffee is served on. That could be a moment someone owns to think, how do I make that the best experience? Or the flower display. And then we know it's critical to hire people with heart, that you can teach the rest. You can teach a lot of technical skills, but hiring people with personality and heart is the most important. Are you reviewing your customer journey to think what is the actual experience for our prospects? So when you've got families coming in and potential residences, have you tried to make a phone call to see how is your team answering that call? Is it as wonderful as possible it could be with connecting with our prospects? And then coming down the line to the tour, is that as smooth as possible? Do we provide um, an excellent tour? So one that's really full of personalization and connection, that isn't just about products and features and sort of more selling like we're in the real estate business. And then on the follow-up, do we have really creative touches of follow-up that can again show people that we've really listened to them, that we want them to feel like we can demonstrate this through some lovely thoughtful gestures that we offer on a follow-up, whether that's a handwritten note acknowledging something they've said or a small gift that we can share. So that was my final slide. I'm sorry that my screen sort of froze at this moment. I would like to pause there and ask anybody to feedback on any questions or anything. I think we've got a few minutes left, and obviously you all have my details for next time. So we have another webinar running on the 22nd of January, which is about 5 strategies to increase occupancy, which is obviously the area I specialize in. So how to increase your occupancy through sales, marketing, and customer experience. We would love you to join us for that on the 22nd of January. Would anybody like to ask any questions? I'm looking
Thanks,
around.
Ali. If it's all right, Ali, how are you doing there?
Yeah, great. Thanks. You?
Good, thanks. Good. Just really enjoyed that. And to be honest, this is something I know you know Lex, sales and marketing director, that we're very passionate about, more in the world of seniors housing rather than care homes. But
Yeah.
I think we're seeing kind of results of kind of taking this type of approach with people as they come in, and it just accelerates the trust, right? So there's a huge amount of trust required for people to put kind of their accommodation and their life in your hands, and if you can approach it and from the perspective of just establishing that relationship and showing that you've listened and that they've been heard, it really kind of gets there. And I just want to share an example that we had recently of our sales and marketing counselor hearing that it was a mother's birthday, and then racing across the road, knowing where they were going for a coffee, racing across the road, buying a gift card and saying, this is what they look like. They turned up to the coffee shop, and then it was all kind of taken care of. And it was, I don't know, I think it was like 15 quid, but it was that kind of, you've seen, you've heard, and kind of you've blown me away, just goes a long way. It doesn't need to cost a lot, but it just, if you can get everybody thinking from the perspective of what would make this feel a little bit more special, I think you find some easy answers sometimes.
Yeah. Thank you, Scott. That is wonderful to hear. really great doing it already. I mean, super. Yeah. Thanks, Scott. Wonderful example there.
Sorry, I have a question. I wanted to ask if you train the team to do that, or do you just include that in the recruitment process from the start?
Dina, sorry, is that for Scott, who is the CEO of Untold Living, or for myself?
Sorry, I was going to ask you, Ali, but of course, if Scott has also examples or additional input, that would be great.
I mean, certainly from our perspective, it's you're unlikely to see it unless people know that it's out there, that it exists. So we've taken the approach of showing we've got what we call a revenue team, which is kind of a combination of ops and sales, and kind of in instigating that revenue team, played a few videos. You can find them on YouTube of Will Guidera kind of talking through this concept, bringing to life a few examples. I mean, the one I love he brings to life is a guy who brought his dad in for a big birthday and said, my dad's more a bud guy. So then, rather than bringing a champagne cart across full of champagne, he brought a cart across with all the different types of bud that you could get in the local bodegas. And again, it's just kind of
personalized
listening bit. So we kind of play a video, we talk about it, and just try and emphasize in our revenue team that your job is to make people feel different than they would kind of when they see somewhere else, because if other people aren't doing this and you are, it's very hard to ignore you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Scott. Thank you.
Yeah, for myself, I definitely create a lot of customer experience standards or manuals. There's different words out there, or sales process guides where we map out what the standards look like, so everybody knows. So do you answer a phone call within 3 rings? Do you offer tea and coffee on arrival in a tour? Just, it's very good just to get those all down. Dina knows me from the hotel world as well, so we have all of that in hotels as well, so people know what good looks like. But then, yeah, absolutely, training it in to bring it to life, and then knowing how, though, you can empower people to surprise and delight along the way. So thinking through some scenarios at different points. I mean, something also that Will talks about in his book, though, is trying to scale some of these he calls them grace notes, but touch points. So trying to also think through on your customer journey, what would be those special wow moments, and how could we deliver them consistently? So when I work with different care home operators, we look at down the journey and say, well, which are perhaps the 2 or 3 more moments we want to hero on and amplify, and then how could we do that in a more consistent way? So for instance, someone the other day, they wanted to give a lovely biscuit of cookies on the way out in the sort of goodie bag. So great, if we know that that's our standard, how do you make sure that that can consistently be given out and prepared before every tour, so it just happens?
Yeah, well, that's great. I mean, in hotels, we have what we call SOPs, standard operating procedures. But of course, you've got a very transient audience. People come in and come out. But if you've got a resident that this is their home, I don't know if you would have SOPs also in the senior living and care home sector.
Yeah, I would say we do. We have different sorts of SOPs. I mean, you have more clinical ones, but yeah, I write a lot of SOPs, or we call them different things: customer experience manuals, sales process guides. Tell the staff what expectations we have.
Right, that makes sense. Thank you. There seems to be a lot of parallels, but with hotels, it's just
yes.
identical, but with a bit of a longer visit.
Yeah, it is a lot of parallels. That's it. It's all, like say, about just providing great customer experiences, and I think that the more we can encourage sectors to talk as well, it's really just healthy, and look for inspiration and in different sectors. Thank you, everyone. I'm delighted you're all as passionate about this topic as mine, and we can continue to enhance and delight our customers and our future customers. So thank you very much. Wishing you a brilliant rest of the day and week. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali. Thanks.
Take care. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.